All right, guys, been looking forward to making this video because I love hostas and I love showing y'all what I know about hostas, and I love continuing to learn about them myself. And I also want to take some time today to show you how I divide them, but even more than that, because chances are you already know how to do this, but I want to help you understand why this is such an important skill to have for anybody who has a nursery or is trying to grow a nursery. This is a great part of learning to start your own nursery. It's an essential skill, is dividing hostas, not just hostas, but other perennials, and I'm going to show you that, or an example of that as well. So I got a couple of them sitting right here with me today. I want to show you these, and this is one of my favorite things, so let's have a look at this. All right, guys, today we're going to be working with a hosta called August Moon. Now, August Moon is one of the more common hostas there are out there, but it's got a really beautiful pink hue to it, kind of a pink to almost kind of yellow coloration to it, and it's really a standout hosta. Now, it's not one of your spectacular variegated hostas or one of your giant hostas. It doesn't have any necessarily unique characteristics about it that just make people want to drive 100 miles to come get it, but we have sold a ton of these this spring, and we've got a lot of them left in our nursery. I think we'll keep selling them, but we're going to keep a whole bunch of them also to continue to divide, so we never have to buy August Moon hostas again. We'll have these forever. So I've got a couple of examples of that here today, and I want to just show you how I divide these. So all I do to divide these is, I grow almost all of my plants in pots. Not all of them, but I grow most of my plants in pots. And you can do the same thing if you have a hosta that's in the ground. Just if you're doing this for nursery purposes, you need to know exactly what variety of hosta is. You can't just call it a green hosta. You can't just call it a variegated hosta. You have to know the variety name. And if you're not, it's not a good plant for your nursery. So all I do is pop these out of here, and this particular hosta, like, I kind of went and picked this one out of the pile, but it's got a lot of stems in it, 3, 4, 5 stems. That's what you want when you're dividing them, and you can just look inside the pot and see that pretty obviously. So then just kind of loosen up the dirt around the pot, pull the pot off, and voila, there we got it. Not overly root bound, will be relatively easy to work with, at least partially for that reason. And what I like to do is shake all of this potting soil off here that I can. It's pretty easy. This is relatively dry. I don't mean dry like it's underhydrated or water starved, but my potting mix is a relatively dry mix. It's pine bark heavy. I may vary that some depending on exactly what I'm potting, but for the most part, I use the same potting soil for everything I do. And take a look at that potting soil right there. You can just kind of see very heavy in pine bark. So I just take my hands down on these hosta roots, on this whole root ball, and just kind of shake it as best I can. I'm going to get all the dirt off of this that I can. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in just a minute. And then I bring it over to my water bucket. It's just maybe half full of water. And I start rinsing it off in there. Now, one thing that I like to point out on this is if you're just dividing hostas in your yard just for your own use, just for your own beautification of your own yard, your own projects, don't worry about doing this. Not necessary. You can just take your big clump of hosta. It'd probably be a lot bigger than this if it had been grown in your yard for a while, but just take the big hosta like this, take a shovel, just whack the whole clump in a couple of pieces, 2, 3, 4 pieces, however many you can get out of it, 10 pieces, whatever it is, stick them back in the ground and off you go. But for my purposes and what I'm trying to do, I want to get all this dirt off of here that I can for the sake of it being very clean. Because the cleaner it is, the easier it's going to be for me to cut this into separate plants, and it's just not as much mess to work with. So I've just been splashing that around underwater, kind of working my fingers through those roots, and that's come out pretty clean, and I think I can at least start cutting on this. So I got my hosta here. I just kind of shook it off a little bit just to get the excess water and excess dirt off, and I got my pocket knife, and you can use any kind of knife. It doesn't really matter. Just always be careful and don't do dumb stuff with a sharp knife in your hand. That's just, I talk to y'all sometimes like I'm talking to my kids, but don't do dumb stuff with a sharp knife in your hand. Good advice for me, good advice for you. So I just come in here and I kind of look at this, and I'm kind of looking for somewhere where I can probably cut this in half. That's maybe a good place to start. So I see right here, if you look right down in there, I can pull these 2 stems off this way, and I can pull these 3 off this way, and there's a pretty good dividing point right there in the middle. So there's kind of a woody root crown right in here. It's called the rhizome of the plant that all of these stems come from. And I'm just going to take my knife and cut right through that thing. Now, you don't have to go crazy pushing on that. My knife's not overly sharp. Most knives are going to cut right through that with no problem. And then you just kind of tease that apart, and you got 2 hostas. So now I got it cut in 2 distinct clumps. One of them's obviously a lot smaller than the other, but I got 2 obvious stems here. So I'm going to take these 2 stems and take this piece of the rhizome here and cut it again. And what I want is I want stem, rhizome, and root. I want at least a little bit of all of that. It doesn't take a lot. You don't have to have a big piece. You don't have to have a lot of roots. You don't have to have a lot of rhizome, but this seems to get the best results. So see, I cut that whole thing off of there. Look at here. So I've only got one stem here, and I kind of wasted this one. So that was just a mistake, but I don't care because I've got tons of hosta material left, and you know, you might be able to put that in a, you know what? That's trash. Let's not try to act like that's not trash. All right, so then we have our other part of this. I'd call it half, but it's more than half. And you know, you're going to have some loose roots in here where you've cut through this, and that's fine. Just discard all of that. And you can see, there's your rhizome right there. And you just want to cut this. You know, kind of aim where you're going to come between this stem and the next stem. And you just cut it like this. Let's see what we got. And you just kind of tease that apart. You know, it might help sometimes on these to go back to your water if you need to rinse that some more, just to help get these apart. These plants are really tough. You don't have to be overly careful with them. By the way, I'm making this video in mid to late April. So some people are frequently asking, what time of year do you do this? Well, I do it now. You can do this any time of year pretty much. I don't like to be rough with plants like this in the very hottest of the summer when it's 90, 95 degrees or hotter. It seems like you lose a few more of them, but you can even do it then. Maybe then and in the winter. Otherwise, just do it anytime. So far, we've got 1, 2, and we still got our chunk here. So let's see how many more we can get out of this. I'm going to say we're going to be able to cut this one at least one more time. Let's see. So we're going to cut that rhizome right there. Did I get through it? Yep. All right. So there's a 3rd hosta right there. And here, this is kind of a mess. There's really 3 stems coming from here. I don't think I can get all 3 of those. This one right here is kind of a cling-on. That's going to be hard to get that. And really, I probably should just try to put all this in a pot. But I'm making a YouTube video. I'm going to try to get as much as I can just to kind of show y'all how I do this. Okay, so we got that one. That took most of the roots. I probably could have cut that a little more carefully, but there's 4 clear hostas. And there's 2 here, but just a tiny bit of a root and rhizome, so I'm going to keep these together and make a 5th one. That will certainly grow. It'll be slower and all that, but it's going to grow out. So then the only thing left to do really is pot these. All right. This is just for demonstration purposes. I'll do the rest of these off camera, of course, but I'm going to take one of those hostas that I divided, one of my divisions, and I'm scooping the potting soil back up that I got out of the other pot. No reason to waste it. And then I will take that, got too much dirt in my pot. I'm going to take that hosta and put that entire root ball. That could have been another little tiny division there. Sometimes I'm more picky with it than others. I'm going to take that whole thing and put it in that pot. Fill it back in with potting soil. It's amazing that all that potting soil came out of a trade gallon pot, and now it takes every bit of it to fill back up a single quart pot. I have no idea why that is, but it is what it is. So we'll take the rest of these, pot them up in quart pots also. And here we have the division of an August Moon Hosta that's in perfect health. It's in great shape, and this time next year it'll be ready to sell. So let me show you what that looks like. And now this is a quart pot from last year's Hosta divisions. So that single stem that I put in this pot last year, you can see now, look inside that pot. What do we have there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 hosta divisions in there in this one pot. I could sell this. I could put it in my sales for $7, $8 right now. Maybe put it in a slightly bigger pot, but still sell it just like it is. It's ready to go today. Beautiful plant. Or I could divide it. And this is really the beauty of plant multiplication. You can see how, this is where we started in a pot like this. I could take this and get 3, 4, 5 divisions out of this. Some hostas divide at much greater rates than others. August Moon is one that multiplies very rapidly. So I can take those, divide them, and have a great number of hostas that are ready to sell the following season, and also some of those to hold back to divide again for the next year. And that way you're always selling some and you're always keeping some, and you have kind of a perpetual cycle of hostas that are always ready to sell the following season. And the reason this is so important to understand, y'all see how easy this is. There's nothing to this. There's a little bit of skill and kind of a little bit of a technique. And you just kind of get the feel of it as you go. You just have to practice. But this very same idea, this very same technique can be used on a number of perennials. These are called herbaceous perennials, which just means that there's not anything that lives above the ground year after year. So, if this is your ground level, these things start from ground level every year, like the daisy, for example. Now, I have some daisies that I do the same things with, a Shasta daisy, and just one of the most common plants there is, but we sell a bunch of Shasta daisies, and it's the same idea with them, and they just kind of tease apart and pull apart. I got 17 divisions the other day from a daisy out of a single quart pot. I mean, it's unbelievable how this works, and all of those amount to, well, they're never free plants, but they're pretty close because you got time and all of that into them. But this is an essential skill for somebody trying to make a lot of free or cheap plants for his or her nursery. And when it comes to starting a nursery, taking those initial steps, you need to get some plants in your hand that are going to be a permanent part of your nursery that can be divided year after year after year after year. And as far as I'm concerned, the hosta is a can't miss plant on these. These are highly sought after plants, hostas are. There's hundreds, literally hundreds of varieties of them, and you just can't go wrong having some of them in your nursery. So guys, as time has gone on in our nursery, even back, if you've been watching us for years, hostas have always been a big part of what we do. They come in such a huge variety of sizes and colors, and they grow at such different rates. And this is one of those types of plants that people never buy one of. They buy 6 and 10 and 20 of these at a time, and you need a good variety of them, different colors, different sizes, and they're just really a can't miss plant in your nursery. So as you see here, here's just some of mine at various stages of growth. We have tiny ones. These will be ready next year, and we have some that are larger. They're ready to sell right now. We have plants that are sitting out in our nursery in our actual sales area that are being sold even today during our plant sale today. So we've always got more and more hostas coming. We want them to be an important part of our nursery because so many people love them and so many people love to buy them. And I know that they're going to be an important part of a nursery in your nursery too. And another thing that we would like to just say, just kind of right here at the end of the video, we're going to offer a lot of these August Moon hostas for sale to our YouTube viewers later in the fall into the winter. These exact August Moon hostas that we will be dividing right now, we're going to put them in these quart pots and sell them to you guys bare root, and I hope they can become a valuable part of your nursery too. And I'll let you guys know months down the road. Don't start asking for them today. I don't have them. Months down the road, we'll let you guys know when you can get some of those from us. So anyway, I hope all this is helpful to you in some way. Thanks for watching our continued saga of our nursery. We love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.